Dr. Light. How's it going? Will he be okay?
I'm almost finished. The battery will be charged in 10 minutes.
That's good. By the way, what do you make of these?
These? Seems to be energy resources. But I've never seen this type on Earth. I don't know where this energy came from, but I cannot let it fall into Dr. Wily's hands. You must recover all the energy immediately, Mega Man.
But where is Dr. Wily?
That's a good question. We may be able to locate another energy emission from the radar room. When we find that meteor, we'll find Dr. Wily.
He still lives.
What the?
Mega Man, you must go after him. We don't know who he is, and it's dangerous to leave him alone.
Yes, sir! Let's go, Rush!
Well, that surely is something else. That robot master got away like nothing else. What power? I've gotta go after it. So, yeah, that's all you need to go for this point. Hey, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? I am Blossom here once again, and I'm from the likes of the Maxi Toys videos. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of the Mega Man Marathon. And today, welcome back to more Let's Play of the forms of Mega Man 8 for the PlayStation/Sega Saturn. So last time we actually did tackle through the intro opening stage, and also by the addition to that, we also did manage to tackle by the forms of 4 robot masters, which are Clown Man, Grenade Man, Frost Man, and especially Tango Man. And today for this episode, ladies and gentlemen, is the fact that we're going to be taking on the mid stage of the game. That thankfully though, just like how it does in the Robot Museum stage from the likes of Mega Man 7, this stage wasn't nearly as going to be as long as far as it will be. But even then, before we get into anything else, however, though, there's 2 bolts in this particular location, if only could be accessed once you're able to use the Mega Ball. Like if you manage to able to do a double jump trick, then you weren't able to actually classify to able to actually go after those 2 bolts immediately. So, but even then though, one thing I should probably mention about this actually is the fact that if you ever played this on the Sega Saturn version of the game, you can actually fight yourselves the forms of one of those extra boss fights you can only fight on the Saturn version of the game, which you can able to have a rematch against with the forms of Cut Man from Mega Man 1, which is very interesting to say the least, because even then, although you do need to able to worry about his new weaknesses as far as Cut Man goes, but even then though, that as far as you're able to notice something like that, I still haven't owned myself my Sega Saturn version of the game. I might be interested with that, but at the moment, Japanese version of the forms of the Sega Saturn console has been sold like super really you know, quite heavily in the forms of eBay accounts and all that stuff. So anyways though, enough about that, so let's go in here and able to find ourselves this mysterious robot. You are... wait, who are you? Don't try to stop me from completing my mission. Gee, I wonder why you're not gonna able to actually just, well, go anywhere. So here's this mysterious robot right there. He might be very tough at first because all he does is basically he just trying to able to actually just get closer to you every time he's trying to do a, you know, the fist attack. And then especially noticeable with this the ability that he can able to actually maneuver all over the place, like acting like a ball. And then, it's really impossible to dodge that, I'm gonna admit though right away. But even then though, if you want to able to actually get your social timing working on it, I suggest you're able to actually use your slides before he starts performing that technique, as you can see there. But as soon as you've done enough hits, then you'll be good to go. I feel a strong sense of justice within you. Who are you? Of course, we got this familiar whistle, Proto Man. Are you okay? Proto Man? What happened? Who is he? I don't know. That robot was holding back. He didn't fight me with anything he had. I wonder why. He might be connected to Dr. Wily. What? Wily Tower is just ahead from here. That's the name of the Wily's new castle. That robot may be going there. Maybe. I'll be careful. Thanks, Proto Man.
That must be it over there! I can see it!
I'm impressed! I didn't think you'd make it this far, Mega Man! However, I don't have time to deal with you! Say goodnight!
Oh my gosh, that scream just... Ugh, I just can't stand it. Just shut up for a minute. And by the way, to make matters worse, it's only held up for 20 seconds, but Jesus Christ!
Are you okay?
Who are you?
My name is Duo. I was born with the sole purpose to eliminate the evil energy from this universe.
Duo, that thing, it's just like the one I gave to Dr. Light.
Yes, this is what you people call evil energy. Based on my studies so far, the one who obtained the original energy must be a being of complete evil. This type of energy absorbs the evil in a person's mind and then multiplies. Judging by the quick rate of its growth, it'll take over the planet with evil energy in a matter of days. We must stop it. I sense the original energy exists in that tower. But the barrier prohibits me from going there. I'll destroy the rest of the evil energy that has spread throughout the Earth. You search and destroy the energy sources for that barrier.
Let's do it! Time to go, Rush!
So yes, this mysterious robot is actually known as Duo. I think that the reason why he did manage to break out of the actual Dr. Light's lab in the first place, I think it's probably because he was actually searching for the evil energy, which seems to deal. It's literally shaped like a skull, which even then, we'll explain more on that until we're able to actually just to realize. I think we've already noticed about the fact of what the evil energy can do. But even then, enough about that, Jibby Jabba, so let's go and get started right here. So yes, much like how it does in Mega Man 7, that we got 4 more Robot Masters to deal with right there. But before we get into anything else, this is what the Dr. Light's lab looks like. It's like the, Eddie's shop from the likes of Mega Man 7, although except the fact of the matter is though, is the fact that the power-ups themselves aren't that really spectacular, I will admit though right away. Although there are some very useful ones, like the forms of the, let's just say, the Super Recovery, which allows you to able to actually pick up more health pickups, which if you're having a hard time with the actual game itself, and even especially noticeable for climbing up ladders faster, and especially noticeable by the fact the matter is though, you can also manage to get yourselves the forms of the laser shot, and even the power shield, which I'll show that off as soon as I manage to able to get, might as well get the Super Recovery and the power shield power-ups. So even then, I might as well able to use those two for the likes of the next level we're going to be hit into. And of course, you can also save your game as well, anytime, anywhere. But even then, that might be seen most likely discussed. So, anyway, so that will do. I think that pretty much does it from here from now on, though. And yeah, I just realized that Roll got herself new forms of a different outfit this time around, though, which is kind of strange, but hey, at least I can usually get a little bit more understanding for this point. So, here we go, on to the next Robot Master in Mega Man 8. Here we have Astro Man. I know for a lot of people seem to get really frustrated with this level, mainly because of this one annoying gimmick. And that way, we'll actually talk more on that until we get to that point. So even then though, that for the most part though, all it's doing in this particular section, as you can see right there, especially noticeable if you can tell what the actual background is, as you can see, most of these platforms keep on reappearing and disappearing. The reason being for this is because you need to keep an eye on for the forms of that, you know, that 3D shape in the background of the injury the likes of the actual skies in the background. And the reason being for that is because whenever it gets all spiky or almost like a starish shape, these platforms will attempt to appear. But then, whenever it transforms into the forms of the actual pentagon 3D-esque shape, these platforms will attempt to disappear. Now, this is one of the annoying moments about this level, though, as you can see right there, is the fact that we're going to come across into these labyrinth, which even then, you know how much I hate labyrinth segments like this, especially noticeable with the forms of the Astro Man stage itself. So, yeah, this is another reason why the fact that a lot of people seem to get a little bit more mixed reception by the forms of Mega Man 8, especially noticeable with the actual levels themselves as how this usually plays out. And, I'm assuming the Mega Ball might be the best option for this level in particular, most likely because you can able to actually skip almost the entirety of the level, or for this match you can able to actually just manage to able to, well I don't know, just manage to able to actually skip almost entirely up to everything. So, but again, it will be kind of annoying at times if you're ever first time playing for this level of the game. That way you can able to actually, it's almost like a confusing maze, and it just gets disorientating mess. I mean, you can actually get lost in this place if you manage to first time playing for this game, no matter what. I mean, as long as you're able to actually encourage you exploring, then you would be fine for the most part, especially if you want to go after those bolts you want to be getting. But then, that way you might as well able to actually get even more power-ups to your disposal. But one thing I forgot to mention about this actually is the fact that I was originally trying to go ahead and go after every single bolt of the game, but I probably guarantee by this right about now, it might not happen. See, Fernando, because of that, because this is actually my first time I'm going to be playing through Mega Man 8, that this might be my semi-blind playthrough on this. So even then, know that because, you know, I haven't really owned Mega Man 8 for the physical version of the game because, you know, it's a tad bit more pricey on the original PlayStation 1 version. So, if that's the point, then, you know, you get the drill. Oh yeah, every once in a while we come towards the forms of the actual, you know, vertical shaft, and as far as you might as well notice something like this. And you need to be very quick though, because not only do we get ourselves our bolt here, but also, when we get to this little skull part, then we can actually transport to the next point of the level. So, there you go then. It's not that much of a difficult or anything like that. In fact, there's no mini-boss in this particular level so far. Well, until we get to Aqua Man stage, and especially noticeable with Sword Man stage. So, but even though that's all it usually matters. So, yeah, I can definitely see why a lot of people seem to really despise this level so much just because of the actual lap with segments like this, which even then, I do know for the fact that the Mega Ball might be the best option to be able to actually skip the entirety of the segments noticing, but then, you know, that can usually happen sometimes. So yeah, you know with the power shield that Master got for the actual Dr. Light's lab, that way, it allows me to be able to actually disable the knockback occurrence, thank God for that, because that's how this, the previous Mega Man game should have been done. I know it's technically the most old school looking, style like that, but hey, at least I'm glad that Mega Man 8 usually introduces the forms of the power shield to able to actually dishonor it, or in this case, disables the forms of that specific knockback occurrence, which I'm really glad about. But you do need to be able to buy that first before you're able to actually just make the game a bit more easier with platforming department, and even especially noticeable when there's like cheap enemy placements all over the place. So you can expect that you would able to definitely need to pick up the forms of that specific, that power up in general. So yeah, there's not much else I can really say about this for the most part. Today was actually forms of the 17th of August 2018. So that means that the new film is being come out during today. And that is the forms of Christopher Robin. In this case, a Disney somewhat live-action film. I will admit though right away is the fact that whenever I first seen it, or especially first heard about it, I might be very excited at first. But unfortunately though, that it doesn't get as many highest reviews though from the forms of RottenTomatoes.com. But I think the reason being for that is because, well, a realistic setting with all these cool Disney characters on screen makes it a bit weird at first. Or maybe it's probably because of the actual different reasons. I'm pretty sure none of them might be at different reasons. But I'm sure enough though that still the highest score with the forms of Disney live-action remakes has been going so far is the forms of the remake of The Jungle Book, and that was actually really great. And even then though, that I can't really believe how the fact that between the 2016 remake of The Jungle Book, and especially noticeable with the forms of Zootropolis or Zootopia if you lived in North America, is actually 2 years old right about now. Which, I really cannot believe how the days themselves gone way too fast. Oh yeah, same applies to how it does it in Finding Dory as well. Which, come on, as you expect it to. I'm pretty sure enough that Moana is going to be on its way for the 2-year anniversary, which even then that could be happening. Well, it wasn't until when we get to like December or something, so... Anyways, there's another bolt that we've ever got. So even then, that would be enough for the time being. And luckily, I've managed to get into the teleportation platform. So that way, we could potentially try and able to face off against with the actual robot master in this level, which is the forms of Astro Man. So technically, it does have its weakness to him, but unfortunately, I don't have that at the moment. So I'm also able to go ahead and use the crash bomb, because even then though, that way I could potentially try and able to actually go ahead and manage to able to actually just demolish him for a certain amount of times. So, and his attack is obviously the forms of Meteor Crash, which even then though that we do need to dodge that, which if you notice the actual pattern then you would be fine, but the only thing you need to be careful also is the fact that he got himself these 2 metallical balls every single time he managed to join in the battle. And for the most part though, if you know what you're doing, you should be alright, but well, this might be the hardest method to deal with in the forms of this particular Robot Master boss. Well, until we get to Aqua Man stage, and Sword Man stage, and even Surge Man stage, then things can get a little bit more easier said than done syndrome. But even then, you guys can clearly tell for that part, so... But again, if you're probably wondering that Astro Man's teleportation wasn't exactly there, I think it's most likely it's pretty obvious because of the emulation, sometimes with the forms of capture cards and stuff like that. Mainly in the forms of the Roxo Gaming Capture HD Pro sometimes. Or maybe they might as well able to guess us a really hard time trying to keep up the sprites going. But hey, at least we're done with Astro Man right about now. And in addition to that, we got ourselves the next weapon in the lineup, and that we have is the Astro Crash, which can be very helpful in some scenarios, mainly due to the fact that we're actually going to be getting to the next stage. And let's see how much balls I've got. 15. So far anyway, but eventually I've managed to able to waste some of my bolts due to my power-ups I need to get to make the journey a little bit more comfortable in the very end. So, here we go, on to this next robot master right here, and that's the forms of Aqua Man, not to be confused as one of those superheroes type of name. Like, I would say the DC superhero, but I'm pretty sure enough that I might be a little bit right or wrong about it. But anyways, as far as this name applies, or as far as this level applies, is the fact that we're going to be spending our time in underwater. So, yeah, that's all I can really say about the Aqua Man stage. It's been like how it does in the likes of the Burst Man stage because of the, the water fatigue, and especially noticeable with the forms of, well, Bopper Man stage, and especially Dive Man stage, and Sceptar Man stage from Mega Man 6. So, yeah, but the only thing is that the only difference is this time around though is the fact that you can now actually swim everywhere else this time, which even then though just makes some of these water segments can be very, very easy to deal with this time, but on the other hand that could be self-explanatory for the most part, so. But yeah, there's not much else to really say about this for the most part though, other than, well, I haven't really explained more on the forms of the fact that I've managed to got something else out of it for my DVDs department back in during yesterday. I think I've already mentioned about the fact that I've got myself Ratatouille and the Rescuers Down Under with the newly released versions of these DVD packaging and all that stuff. Although sure it might function the same way as how it does in the original version, but that's just how it is. The only new film I've got for the DVD this time around though, and that's the Forms of the Prince of Egypt for DVD released in 1998, which, the exact same year as when Ants came along into the forms of the actual theaters. So, even though I know that the Prince of Egypt, as far as the actual timeline goes with the actual film's release, the Prince of Egypt is the second of these DreamWorks animated films. Obviously the first one was the Forms of Ants, so you get the suggestions there. So, anyways. And one thing I do actually realize is the fact that with my version of the Forms of the Prince of Egypt that I've got, I've managed to pick up myself the 2018 version of that film. Not only because between both Ants and the Prince of Egypt, both of those films are pretty much almost nearly towards the forms of their 20th anniversary of those films being released, which I'm really very surprised about this. And actually, I'll get to more on that later. Here's probably is the most annoying mini-boss in the entirety of Mega Man 8. And that's the forms of this particular robot that we're going to be fighting against in the waterfall sequence. Now, what makes it a little bit more of annoying, and especially difficult at the same time, the reason being for that is because, well, obviously we're going to have to keep on falling down a lot. And in order to actually deal the damage of the forms of this particular robot here, well, we got to be sure we need to use the asteroid crash, and especially noticeable at some other times, the lightning claw. And then once you're able to get the accuracy going with the actual aiming shots, then you would able to actually go ahead and finish him off no problem. Well, at least it did take me about first attempts this time, so yeah, I'm quite surprised about this. And here we got ourselves the third of one of those rush power-ups that we've got, or in this case the rush items that we've got, and that will be very, very useful when we get to the very end of the game. And that will have to be the rush heal, which basically it allows you to able to actually regenerate our health every time when Rush Smash are able to actually give you some bit of health. Because as far as I've mentioned about this before, unlike in any other Mega Man games that usually retains the forms of these energy tanks, in this game they don't have any of those energy tanks, none whatsoever. But even then though, that's only because of how the fact that I don't know what's the other reasons they've managed to able to dish out the forms of the energy tanks in this game. Which, I don't know what exactly how that was meant to be, but I don't know about that. But anyways, let's go ahead and just swim about and just get our health pickup. In addition to that though, we might as well pick up another, well, bolts that we can able to obtain from. But again, as far as I've mentioned this before, there are 40 of them in total. I do know there's actually a secret up there, which I could potentially try to get, but I just don't know I can guaranteed to get it. So anyways, we got ourselves 4 extra lives right about now, which is very good, because even then though that, at first I thought that this game is very generous at times, but turns out that it gives me some occasional extra 1-ups. I don't think I can get as many 1-ups compared to how it does in the previous Mega Man games, most notably Mega Man 3, and especially noticeable with the forms of Mega Man 4, 5, 6, and especially 7, but I don't know about that, but even then, no, that's how it is. So, here we go with this particular Dynamite platformings right there, similar to the likes of how it does it in both Mega Man 6 and 7, that if you jump at the right time before it counts to 0, then you'll pretty much be safe. So, yeah. I don't know about this, but I'm pretty sure that Rarity forgot to mention about this back in Mega Man 7 Let's Play. That this time around though, because of both Mega Man 7 and 8 managed to have more buttons to work with, that they managed to able to actually introduce ourselves the forms of the left button and the right button. Well, in this case, an L and R buttons for the, well, pretty much the any kind of video game controllers, is the fact that you can now actually finally manage to switch over between those weapons at any time and anywhere this time. Which, even then, I'm really glad that has been improved. So even then, that could be something like something worth mentioning. Instead of like constantly pausing the game, although the only time you need to occasionally occasionally trying to constantly manage to press the pause button. Sorry for a little bit of a tongue twisting in the end, folks. I do apologize for that. That you need to be able to actually equip one of those rush items. So, anyways, let's go ahead and equip ourselves the Astro Crash to be able to actually just manage to deal with Aqua Man right here.
I'm Aqua Man, but you can call me handsome guy.
Okay then. Anyway, so obviously his weakness is the forms of the Astro Crash, and if you manage to able to use that at the right time, then you would able to deal the amount of damage on him. But as long as you're able to actually get himself stunned for a moment there, then you would able to actually do a little bit of a Mega Buster at him, then you would able to actually deal with him that way too. So overall, not that much of a challenge of this boss fight, so as long as you're able to actually use your Asteroid Crash. So, there you go then. And that pretty much does it by the forms of Aqua Man stage. I will admit though right away, one of my major gripes with this level though is the fact that the mini-boss takes absolute forever to kill sometimes. Although the only way you can able to actually deal with him faster is the fact that you can able to actually use the Asteroid Crush. But even I know that's all I can really say about this. So now we got ourselves our new weapon in our lineup, and that's the forms of our Water Balloon, which can be very helpful in the next level because, well, the next level we're going to be hit into is the forms of, actually before we get into this, however, though, I might as well able to go back into Dr. Light's lab real quickly, and I might as well able to buy something else, as a part though anyway. I'm actually going to be paying, oh jeez, I really don't know, because I know for the fact that there's actually there are some very good ones here and there, which I know some people seem to always go for, but I'm trying to able to follow my own orders, so I might as well able to go through Climb Ladders Faster upgrade, which it might be very helpful for you in some scenarios, most notably by the forms at the very end of the game, because you can probably see why as soon as we actually get into the Dr. Wily's castle, or for this matter, Dr. Wily's tower. So even then, that could be something else. So, anyways, let's get to it by the forms of this particular robot master we're going to be doing with next, Sword Man. I mean, what is this? What, like, a King Arthur legend? Well, I don't know. I'll just make things up. That's all there is to know. So anyways, Swordman stage is actually pretty fun in my opinion, most notably because of how the fact that, well, not only do we able to actually get inside the actual temple itself almost, but also, as soon as we're about to be getting inside the actual temple itself, well, we might actually come towards this particular sequence here. Now, if you remember, by the forms of how it does it, if you ever played Yoshi's Woolly World before, that's how the fact of the matter is though, you can able to actually get into these different segments of the actual puzzle levels. And here, we need to tackle through every single trials, like the forms of 4 of them to be in fact. And basically what we have to do is basically we need to pass all 4 trials before we move on to the second part of the level. So in this first trial right there, all we have to do is basically we need to get away with the forms of the actual Spike Trap, because obviously Spikes will instantly kill Mega Man, obviously. And we need to use the Mega Buster to able to turn off the switch, and that way we're able to actually continue on when we actually just trying to do so. There's another bolt if you want to be curious right here. And let's go and switch over to the forms of that specific Thunder Claw until we're able to actually act out as a grappling hook almost. Which even though that could be something worth mentioning until we get to the forms of Search Man stage, like you can definitely tell why when we get to that. And once you get all the way to the very end of the sorry, a little bit more tangents right there. I do apologize for that because there's not much else I can talk about. But even then, if you see that switch over there, the one I just pressed at the very end of one of those trials, you'll basically done that trial for good. So even then, though, that could be something that's something worth mentioning. So now we move on to probably the most difficult section of this level, and that will have to be the fire trial. If you remember by the forms of the Quick Man stage from Mega Man 2, then you know those lasers instantly kills Mega Man, and especially noticeable with the forms of Turbo Man stage from Mega Man 7, that's one of those fires, or the actual flames for this matter. Sometimes it either hurts Mega Man or kills Mega Man. The lava and the fire in Mega Man 8 this time around, though, is the fact that the magma and even the lava as a result will actually kill Mega Man this time around. So, what is this, like a Mario game all over again? Well, I don't know about that, but anyways. So the next room we're going to be hitting into is the forms of how the fact that we need to figure out the darkness inside of it. So, you know, just like how it does it on one of those segments in the forms of Mega Man 7. So, but of course we do need to able to actually keep our attention to the visual cue. Sorry, a little bit of a tongue twisting in the end, folks. So I do apologize for that. So, but as long as you know you can see where you're going, then you will be fine until you get to this part here. So we have ourselves a puzzle element right here. So let's press that middle switch, and nope, that's the wrong one. Yep, that's the wrong one. I guess every time you actually press the wrong order of switches, then you have to restart the entire puzzle again. So there we go. Press the middle one, the left, and the right at the very end. So simple and straightforward and done. So there we go. That concludes the third trial. Now we're going to be moving on to the fourth and the final trial before we get into the last portion of the second part of the forms of Swordman stage. So, and now we have to be on the top left corner. And basically what we have to do is basically we need to use that particular obstacle here to be connected like at the top portion of that specific contraption. Now, if you can see right there, normally we can't able to actually let that thing reach higher enough, but on the other hand, as soon as we're able to actually use the tornado hold, then we could potentially try to go ahead and just, well, after dealing with these enemies first, and then let's go ahead and switch over for a bit, and, well, we don't have to worry about the forms of constantly shifting between the, well, these Robot Master power-ups or anything like that, or these weapons for that matter. And then you were able to now finally use the Mega Buster at the same time, or simultaneously this time, which I'm really glad they actually did manage to do that, because it just makes the actual entire journey way easier this time, which that makes it very obvious. Anyways, let's go ahead and use it there, and hopefully that should be connected, and we reach at the very end. So yeah, not too long, not too dragged on or anything. It's just very simple, self-explanatory though for that particular stuff in mind. So once you do with all 4 trials, then we pretty much guarantee we can move on. So not only do we get ourselves a health pickup, but also, if we go down here, we come towards the mini boss fight. So, the best way to deal with this particular mini boss fight is just simply we need to use the actual, well, the crash bomb of any sorts. That way, it'll do insane amount of damage. Especially noticeable with the most, despicable explosive effect, which sure looks very, 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 very pretty menacing to look at. But anyways, you need to watch out for that hammer obstacle right there, because if he's seriously able to try to attack you from here, well, that was quick. I'm guessing that makes it too easy for that part. So, there we go, folks. Here's the final rush item in the forms of Mega Man 8. Although, to be honest with you guys, I never even used one of our rush items in this game, regrettably, because, well, I just found rush in this particular game, compared to how it does in the previous games in the series, seems to be a little bit more, well, lacking to me, though. Well, the only good one I can think of is the forms of the rush heal, because that way you can able to actually restore your health every time you're able to keep on getting hit by the enemy contact, and even pretty much everything else for this matter. So This section can be tricky though, especially if you can't take your time, because even then though, you need to worry about this particular hammer obstacle. And even then, similar to how it does in the likes of how it does in Super Mario 64, if you step onto one of those floaty platforms of any sorts, then we can able to actually catch a ride of the forms of the actual lava. But again, if you touch the fire or the lava, well, you'll instantly die. So you have to stay sharp and you have to be very, very cautious with that. So I think that checks out there. So anyways, yeah, for the most part though, Sword Man stage is actually pretty fun in my opinion, just because of the actual trials you have to go through, and especially noticeable how the fact of the matter is though, is the fact that, well, as far as I might as well say that much, so, and luckily I managed to bypass this part from my first try, so that's pretty good. And his weakness on the forms of the Sword Man's fight is the forms of, you know, that particular Aqua Man's weapon, the water balloon.
I'll do my best.
Oh, you would do your best, huh? Being to be approved of the new king in town? Well, I don't think so. So anyways, again, his weakness is the forms of the water balloon. If you manage to aim at the right time, then you would able to deal the insane amount of damage on the forms of Sword Man. So, I mean, he does that and ramps and repeats. So this takes no effort whatsoever. So even though, just like how it does in the forms of Junkman from Mega Man 7, and especially noticeable with the forms of Cloudman from Mega Man 7 as well. So, geez, why there's some of these robot masters are pretty easy to deal with, especially noticeable when compared to how it does it back in Mega Man 2, with you know, Metal Man is pretty much instantly being killed by his own weapon, which is pretty unbelievable if you ask me. So anyways, here we got ourselves our Flame Sword, which appears to be very, very unique for the most part though, but again, I managed to only rarely use that as long as we're able to actually come towards the encounters of the robot masters themselves. So speaking of which, here's the final robot master in Mega Man 8 we have is Surge Man. Jeez, I can't believe we're actually nearly towards the end of the game already. Which I'm pretty sure because of the actual cutting of the load times, and especially noticeable with my skills needs to be improved upon, but even then, yeah. So as you expected, much like how it does it in Woodman stage for Mega Man 2, and especially noticeable with the forms of Plant Man stage for Mega Man 6, that it's a very typical nature, well, environment level. So, but except that, you know, it's broken off into two segments, noticing. And this is what the actual, you know, the Thunder, oh, jeez, I can't remember what the actual ability's name it was. I really do apologize for this little common sense, people. But even then, if you manage to able to use your Thunder ability, or in this case, the actual, you know, that Thunder ability, you can able to actually grab onto something. Which even then, that could be very helpful in some scenarios, especially levels like this, because think of like how it does in any forms of how it does in Super Castlevania 4 of any kind. But even then though, that except it's on the Mega Man game. So, but even then though, that's not much else to discuss for this point. Even then though, that's all that usually matters. So, you have to be very careful of those electric spikes there, because even then though, that you will expect you will get hit a lot. So, for the most part, for this level with the actual grapple stuff like this happens, it's not too bad until at the very end of the game that things can get pretty annoying, which even then, I might as well able to discuss more on that later. But for now, is that it? That's the first part done? Okay then. Oh wow, I managed to able to beat the actual first part already. I know there are some bolts I've missed, but even then though, it's not my 100% guarantee, because even then, I will admit though right away is that most of these power-ups aren't that really spectacular though to me though, because unlike in the forms of how it does in the forms of how back in Mega Man 7, that most of the super adapters, which has always been a fun factor about Mega Man 7, I basically managed to able to use the super adapter for almost everything else. But I think this is how it is to me. So, anyways. So again, there's not much else I can really say about the Surge Man stage. It's just basically a forest nature level, and especially noticeable by the fact that we can able to actually explore the inside base portion for this almost this entire time. And, one thing I'm gonna admit though right away, with the forms of trying to get the bolts in this game, one thing I don't really like about the forms of that particular system with the bolts in this game compared to how it does in the forms of Mega Man 7, especially noticeable compared to Mega Man and Base, and even especially noticeable with Mega Man 9 and 10, that, I hate when you're trying to able to collect the bolts you're going to be getting through, because if you manage to get screwed over, like, you can definitely tell why when we're about to be, eventually trying to approach one of them, so... But anyways, let's go ahead and pick up our health pickup, and if we go down here, then not only do we need to be able to deal with the forms of the actual, Thunder Whip, yeah, as you can see right there, I missed my shot right there, because if you screw up, if you manage to get a game over, then your checkpoint is right after that particular bolt what is. So, yeah, that can get pretty annoying in some scenarios, but honestly, I think I might be okay with that, but even then though, that's only because of how the fact that if anyone is super very curious to able to actually go for 100% completion of Mega Man 8, that is entirely up to you, which even then, yeah. Although I do think, one thing I should probably mention about this is that much like in any other Mega Man games, much like how it does it from them, you can't just simply just manage to able to revisit some of these stages again, and able to actually get the bolts that way. So even then, if you get every single, Robot Master's weapons that way, then you would able to actually go back into the previous levels you've already been into, and then this time around though you can get even more bolts due to how the fact that you can able to actually use one of those special weapons you can use. So that's something worth mentioning. This part can get pretty finicky sometimes for most people, because you need to able to do the actual grapple stuff, and especially noticeable you need to open the security door as well at the exact right moment, but if you don't do it at the right time, then you're probably going to die into the actual pits of spikes, so you just have to stay sharp on that one.
Ready?
Yeah, let's go.
Alright folks, here's the final Robot Master in the forms of Mega Man 8, as I mentioned to you before, Surge Man. So his weak 2 is the forms of the actual Flame Sword. So even then though, that if you manage to aim at the right point, then you would able to actually classify to able to actually hit them at the right time. In fact, the Flame Shield almost exactly feels a bit similar to the likes of how it does in this Slash Claw for Mega Man 7, although except the fact that it's all fiery, not just the actual typical slashing ability. But there we go folks, that concludes the Surge Man stage, and that pretty much does it for every single Robot Masters in Mega Man 8. So let's see what this the last weapon that we've got. So we've got the homing sniper, which can be very helpful, especially noticeable that you know the Astro Man's weakness I was going to be on about? Well, that might be his weakness. So even then though, that we've got every single abilities, so even then though, that could be something worth mentioning. And also, after beating all 8 Robot Masters, just like how it does in Mega Man 7, well, the Dr. Wily's castle has been finally opened. So even then though, we can able to encounter the final encounter with the forms of Dr. Wily himself. So that's very obvious there, so even though that's all it usually just goes. So, and yeah, I don't think I've got enough of those bolts I can get for those specific abilities I might as well go for, so oh well, never mind. I did try my best though. So anyways, we've got the ending stuff here, so join me next time on Let's Play Mega Man 8 for the PlayStation 1/Sega Saturn. It's the fact that we're going to be taking on Dr. Wily's castle, or Dr. Wily's tower, so see you guys next time. Later fellas.